Hi, and welcome to Yeshivat Shem and Aver. I'm Rabbi David Katz. This is the Motzi Shabbos Parsha of the Week lecture. This week's Parsha is Parashas Ki Savo. Name of the article, A New Delight to the Eyes. Questions, comments, or feedback, I can be reached at Rabbi Katz at virtualyeshiva.com. And there's no Zohar this week. I think next week I'm thinking there's also no Zohar. If I'm not mistaken, Vayelech, we'll go back to it. And Zos Bracha, there's also no Zohar. We'll end the Zohar year on Hazinu. Hazinu should be a big one. It's 100 pages, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Zohar does with the always complicated Hebrew of the regular Parsha Hazinu. With that said, we have the Haftorah, very quick to the point, yet very much on the point. Let's go ahead and start. The Haftorah comes, and the message is very basic. Maybe you guys read it and thought that it's not basic, and it very well might not be that basic on most ways of looking at it. But as I was going over the article, it's very interesting. I like how when I'm researching, basically during the week and on Friday when I research, and then by the time you write it, when you find that your work is checked and balanced in the Haftorah, and then onto the Zohar on Shabbos day, you really know that you connected in a major way. So as I'm learning the Parsha, I'm seeing, taking the general approach that I take, look for the Ger. Ger comes out after a long meditative perspective on the opening chapter of the Parsha. And as I'm looking, I'm seeing that the Ger finishes the first chapter. I don't know if it's the whole first chapter, but when it says, the Ger amongst you should also bring first fruit. Everyone saw that in the Parsha, correct? Where it says the Ger, the Jew brings the first fruits. You go to the Kohen, you go to the temple. And then you recite the passage of where you come from. And it'll all be good to you. And then the Ger amongst you also, the Levite, you and the Ger are to do this. Does everyone recall seeing the Ger there? And did anybody have any particular thoughts when they saw the Ger there? Did it resonate? Any questions? Any personal inclination? Did it hit home, that particular Ger reference? So that point really stuck me. I sat on it. The point. I didn't get the article posted until way too close to Shabbos for comfort. I like to have a couple hours of cushion. This took me to the minute because I must have been stuck on that for about 3 or 4 hours. And looking at that point, I really started to think about the Jew and the Ger coming together here. And I went over to Sanhedrin, and I just on a whim, there's an idea that Mashiach comes to a generation that is completely righteous or completely wicked. That's what the party line is. Wicked and righteous. But then I went and looked it up. I'm saying maybe that's not the real connotation. Maybe there's something else going on. And you look it up and it says Zakai and Chayev. Zakai can mean pure or of schut, of merit, not righteous, merit. And chayav means like obligated. When let's say if a Noahide were to incur the death penalty, he would be called chayav, obligated. So it comes either from obligation or from zakai. So, once I see that language, it's no longer wicked and righteous. Starting to then think, what's going on here? And the Talmud gives you the quotation of the verses that they're basing their perspective on. So you go to look it up, and lo and behold, it's the Haftorah, and also the bit just before the Haftorah. The bit before the Haftorah was when you're Chayiv, and Zakai came on our Haftorah. You know the end of the Haftorah where it says all your people will be righteous? Does everybody recall seeing this in the Haftorah? Right towards the very end of it. And all your people will be righteous. That line is the basis of the merit. So coming into chapter 60 of Isaiah 59 is the basis when you're Chayiv. And if you look closely over there, in 59 where you're Chayiv, it's saying Hashem's going to do it himself. Yet a Redeemer will come to Zion. And when you look in 60 where you're all merit, the entire generation has merit, all your people are righteous, yet the entire thing are the nations of the world having light. Where does it say the Jews are the greatest? We're the ones with redemption. Armageddon kills the world. Right? I want to be an Armageddonic. Tell me how we win and everyone loses. Go on the internet and type in, these kind of things. The blog scene, the Jews win. They're the greatest. They win. Nations lose. Armageddon. I mean, you know the shtusim. When you look up these verses, Jewish victory is nation, national, international victory. And that's the way it should be. That's the obvious thing. If you're going to be a light to nations, don't you think you should have some nations be a light too? Yet you tell people this, and they just don't get what the world beyond Armageddon is. How there can be an international, worldwide, universal redemptions beyond the scope of where people want to go. I'm saying, why? What's the point? And you get into the Ger Toshav learning, and you find out, the whole world's Ger Toshav, and the Ger is going to be filling when it says the knowledge of God will fill the world, that's the Ger. So you have two radically different schools of thought. And our Haftorah is focusing on all your people are righteous. And what it means to say is that there's a concept, Ein Mashiach LiYisrael. There is no Messiah. Right? Chizkiyahu, the king, was the last Messiah, says the Talmud. He rose up, he was the guy that says, hey, follow me, gang, I'm the Messiah, I'm going to build this, I'm going to do that, me. And he was it. But he wasn't even able to sing praise. He couldn't open his mouth for praise. So the Talmud says, you know what? If he couldn't have done it, no one's more powerful than him. Look at his name, Chizkiyahu, the strength or might of God. So there's no Messiah for Israel. Yet we say there is a Messiah. So the Messiah comes in a generation that is pure, meritorious, or chayiv. Let's get away from using righteous and wicked. It is not even in the language. Now the way that is there's a concept called mazal. There is God gracing man. That is the power of Mashiach. As we could, as humans, relate to Mashiach. It's God doing it through the cooperation of man through divine providence. Now there will be those closer to the fire and those further from the fire. And there will be those very close, the four craftsmen of redemption. Those, let's say, Hashem works with certain people on certain jobs closer than others. And there are those that are a distant four craftsmen. A fractal code, one that is high definition and lesser definition. That's what the Parashah, the Haftorah is going on. Mashiach is the power of God through the agency of man. Man will not redeem the ger. let's say the Jewish Mashiach says Jews win, Armageddon's it. That's the duality view. Let's call it the wicked view. Let's call it the duress view. Right? If there's a negative component of Israel, that's the negative component that Israel says, we like it when you hate us, we like it to be alone, all of that mentality. Then there's the side of Hashem, that Hashem is Mashiach, and he says, hey, let's just call it the redemption of the Ger. We can call it that. That's where man has no say whatsoever. Therefore, it's not by the faculties of man. And God says, this is what I'm going to do. Our Parsha, the opening segment here, you've come back to the land. You went to Jerusalem where God will have chosen his name. And so we're there now. So let's just say the Mashiach came now. No. Because it says you have to look for the Kohen that's there. Right now, there's no Kohen up there. There's a mosque up there. Therefore, what the Parsha is telling you is how to identify the end. Is when you were brought to the land, Hashem settled his name in a place, which we know will be the Temple Mount, and you have to have a Kohen there. When you have those circumstances, you know you have been redeemed. You are then to take care of first-year fruits. And you will bring them to the Kohen. And you will read about your past. And when you do that, it'll be good for you. It'll be good for you and all in your house, you, the Levite, and the Ger in your midst. That's all I know. Now I am assuming that I brought myself back. I'm really good. I brought myself back. But let's say that I brought myself back and I am chayiv. I didn't do my job. So I'm going to then negate the Ger. Leave him out. I'm not interested in the Ger. He's not coming back. It's me. Yet we find, here's the Ger. He's right there. Now let's say I'm meritorious. I do my job. Right? It actually is me. You say God allows me to think, guys, you guys did it. So what's the outcome? You brought back the Ger. Mazal Tov. You did it. So when things are Zakai, let's just say the altruistic redemption, and let's just throw a dog a bone, there is a Ger there, and it was about the Ger. Right? When you figure it out, you will have figured it out that Gerim are part of this equation. So what about when we're all chayiv? Right? We want the Armageddon. It's a Jewish story, and we're leaving everyone out. Well, that's where God says, you thought you were Mashiach? Were you not aware of Ein Mashiach LiYisrael? So as much as you were being negative and being, and leaving out the whole story, i.e. of the Haftorah, you are going on the part before the Haftorah. God will take over. Evil actions will slowly become good. And you will end up every time with our Haftorah. So Chayiv means the Noahide peoples have 7 levels of capital punishment. And those levels of capital punishment are really, if you look into them, 7 laws of Noah mean you have not accepted the laws of Moses as was given on Sinai. We are now taking out the whole world. They don't think that far, but if they did think that far, that's what they would be saying. And Zakai is coming to say, we know the truth of the laws of Noah. We know that all 7 are not capital. Their capital offense is when you are an akum who has not accepted anything. Then you are obligated to accept based on as it was given at Sinai to Moses. And as you come into Ger Toshav status, 4 of 7 are capital. Stealing is not capital. All the more so learning Torah and Shabbos are not capital. It becomes a relationship between you and God. If you are obligated to die, that's between you and God. Meaning if you say, I'm the real Jew, Shabbos is for me, I'm getting back even, blah, 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 you're stepping on toes. It's just derech eretz. It's any relationship whatsoever. You don't just kick the door open on any issue and say, I am blah, blah, blah. But if you say, Hashem gave Shabbos to mankind, blah, 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 I want to do Shabbos, because what the hey, go ahead. No worries. It's why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and when you accept the laws as was given at Sinai, it's understood, you know what's going on. You know the terrain. You know who's who, what's what. And we're not talking bigger, smaller, better, lower. It's just knowing the derech eretz. How do you take on a commandment of a Jew that says, I'm going to wear tefillin because I'm the biggest, baddest Jew in the world? Well, that's also wrong. You don't just say, your least you're wearing tefillin. No. You have to have intent. You have to be lishma. You wear tefillin, you say, it's a mitzvah to wear tefillin. I am commanded in tefillin. I'm going to wear tefillin. The Ger Toshav says it's a commandment to keep Shabbos. I'm a Ger Toshav. I'm going to keep Shabbos. So the attitude goes on both sides. Thus, when you take on the proper acceptance of commandments, the Ger Toshav grows into Ger Tzedek. All the commandments come in, and then the capital offenses are synonymous with Israel. 4 offenses are capital for both sides. Thus, Mashiach comes in a generation that's either al zakai, we understand the nature of reality, or when it's all chayiv. Right now, it's all chayiv. The entire world has no clue, really, of Noahide anything. It's old mantras passed down from lack of learning. So that's one condition that Mashiach will come. The ger, meaning the ger's out. So Hashem takes over. This is where Hashem steps in, and the redemption becomes high definition. And all of a sudden, we're going to end up with Zakai. Says the Haftorah. There will be merit. There will be light to the nations. So as man gets the creation at the bottom of the well, Hashem takes over and restores order. When the parsha starts, maybe you got back Zakai on your own volition and the ger was redeemed. Or maybe you understood that you thought you got here by yourself and therefore the ger is out. The ger is just an accident that he's here. But can it be then that the redemption came in such a sour way? We say, Ein Mashiach Yisrael. So as long as there's no Messiah, then you end up with the Haftorah. Then the ger that's here is not an accident. And it did come from Chayev. Only Hashem drove the boat. He turned Chayev into Zakai. Now you could have done it Zakai. You could have. But we didn't. At least that's where I'm thinking it's going to go. I don't see the whole world doing tshuva overnight. By their own volition. So you say it must be Ein Mashiach Yisrael. Hashem takes over and turns Chayev into Zakai. Meaning the lack of respect and knowledge of the ger becomes full bloom. Ger is there. How can it be the ger's out, the ger's in, Jews this, Jews that, Armageddon, Mashiach? What is the real story? The idea is Adam was created. If you look, he named everything in the garden. Everything was good. Then Hashem put him to sleep. He wakes up, and his meat, his flesh was closed underneath of him, meaning he lost access to the meat-soul combo, says Rabbi Nachman. So he looks at his wife and she's a piece of meat. He doesn't get to the soul. He's blocked out. He's locked in his own world. He becomes in a world of duality, where he's taken from Adama and he's Adam. He becomes Adam. And Adam has a resonance. I am Adam. Adam. And she says, hey, Adam, how you doing? All of a sudden, there's a world called Adam. And he defines his world. Everyone here has a name. Think of your name. Think about how your name sounds to you. And when people call you by your name. When your friends call your name. When your enemy calls your name. It sounds different, doesn't it? Some people you don't want saying your name all the time. Yet other people you wish they'd say your name more. So you begin to have a persona of your name. And the more in duality you are, you become just a guy or that girl, that woman. You have it's a little world where it's a fantasy world. And everyone relates to you based on your character. I'm the obnoxious guy, or I'm the nice guy. So Adam falls victim to this. And it's a very cunning way of being, because you know you're putting on a show. So they realize that, man, we have to have some boundary here. Put on some fig leaves, you be the girl, I be the guy. They become people of modern society. Cunning. Hashem steps in and says, what are you doing? He says, I'm afraid I'm cunning. Adam is so in touch with what he's doing, he's able to express what he's doing. So this whole scenario goes on until the Jews stand at Sinai. Sinai, again, are you going to repair Adam? You've been shown the truth. You're taken out of your duality. What do? Make the golden calf back to duality. Now you have a Jewish duality. There are Jews of duality and there are non-Jews of duality. Let's call it the spell of Hashem. But then something else happened. In the middle, between Sinai and Adam, you have the Shem and Abraham program. Abraham's also put to sleep. By the way, at Sinai they slept before the revelation. Abraham's going to fall asleep as well. But before he does, Shem is going to slip in there, give him the hay to his name, making Avraham, the Ger Toshav program starts. Abraham existed as the Ger Toshav with Shem Melchizedek on the Temple Mount. The priesthood is given. Although as I read on Shabbos, just to throw this in, I just read this on Shabbos. This comes from the Ben Ish Chai, a reincarnation of Ben Yael ben Yehoyada, who was King David's right-hand man. He says like this, Shem gave the priesthood with the idea of it being the high priesthood. And you can't do that to Abraham. Because Abraham is married to Hagar, and you're putting a Kohen Gadol with a Shifcha. Somebody not fitting for the Kohen Gadol. That causes Ishmael, Esav, Yerva ben Navat, Mashiach ben Yosef has to die. What Shem did, now what Hashem promises, Mashiach will come and Mashiach ben Yosef won't die. The whole basis of Torah is constructed after this whole episode that he won't die. By the way, in the merit of Ben Yael ben Yehoyada. But what Shem did was, Shem says, he acts as Mashiach, and he gives over the power of Mashiach to Abraham as Kohen Gadol. And that wasn't the answer. It should have been more of the Cohen who facilitates to the Mashiach. Shem gives over the revelation of redemption, and Abraham is the Cohen who ministers to the revelation. Cohen Mashiach, it's called in the Chumash. That is the repair so that Mashiach ben Yosef doesn't die. All that take the mantle of Mashiach ben Yosef, as if to say they are, then that's where it's gone wrong over time. From the time of Shem, it's always gone wrong, which is why Shem was punished for blessing Abraham first. Not that the order was wrong, but for the order of the priest by saying Kohen Gadol over Kohen Mashiach. There's two types of Kohen Gadol, of the first temple and the second temple. And ironically, the second temple, Kohen Gadol, is more Kohen Gadol-ish than the first temple. One depicted by garb, one depicted by oil. And as we know from the Chumash, the garb is actually higher. The choshen, the clothes. So the order of which he blessed, it was wrong, but it's not God versus Abraham. It's which level of blessing of Abraham will you give? Kohen Gadol or just Kohen? In that episode, that spark of redemption, needless to say, Abraham becomes the Ger Toshav program. And his eyes are open. He receives the priesthood, the Torah, as if to say that Shem's actions actually revealed to Abraham everything. That whole exchange was everything. Abraham pays for it with Ishmael. Then he's going to go to the covenant between the parts. Because of the Ishmael program, he's going to go to sleep, and he's going to have offspring that are going to extend to Sinai. Yet in the Ger Toshav moment of where eyes are open, that is what our parsha is coming to express. You can exist with an eye open, not under the spell of life from Hashem. Living in a world where redemption is. The parsha ends. This parsha is the eyes open, if you can see it. When you get to the bottom of the ger, you see what it is to have eyes open. When you find the ger from the very beginning of the parsha with the first fruits, then the whole parsha comes into focus, and you start to get a different sensitivity of life. You'll see that life is about Jews and non-Jews. Gerim and Jews intertwined. You may see schism, but there is no schism. You're going to be going into the land together, and there's no schism. You're under one Brit. Sinai, there was a schism. Jethro left. Even if Jethro would have stayed, there would have been a schism. These are Ger Israel. These are Ger Toshav. But this Brit, where Hashem says, here, not like Sinai, your eyes are open. Here, there is no schism. And once you have a place of achdus or unity, then you can see life in a non-schism way. You can see what it is to be a ger very far away, and how he'll treat the Jew, if the Jew is also very far away from God. You'll see how they correspond. What is the dynamic of anti-Semitism? What is the dynamic of the blessings working together? It says when you go very, very low, there's a ger that'll go very, very high. So the more you make the Noahide chayiv, you are low, 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 And all of a sudden there's a Ger Tzedek, high. You can see that the Gerim are going to be thrust in a very far away place in how they will be brought onto Israel. Israel didn't have to cause the world to go so far. And you see the lessons of the parsha. If you would serve in happiness, why are we not serving in happiness? How can you when everyone's chayav to die? You're putting death on the world, and you think you're going to serve from happiness. But when you're zakai, the blessings come, different tone. The parsha deals with hard fact. How to make it work, how it doesn't work, what reality is even been unbeknownst to yourself. The Gerim and Jews are intertwined. It is destined to be a brother relationship of love. And there will be times when you're not so loving. Cain and Abel were not loving. But they're rectified through Moses and Jethro to become loving. Every family affair has vengeance. Look in the Torah. The brothers and Joseph, they wanted to kill him. Is that any different than what we're saying between the Ger and the Jew? Is it any different? And as it was explained, Yerevam ben Nevat comes from Yosef, and Yosef had nothing to do with it. It had to do with an episode of Shem and Abraham. So logic doesn't go into it. These are soul issues. And you get a really stark revelation from that point on in the Parsha. What is it to be a true convert? What are all the things that we go through where we see it on the surface for what it is, but when you get into the meat of the issues, when you put the soul and the meat together, the rectification from Adam and Eve, where the shofar blast penetrates, which is where we are now in the year, coming into that Rosh Hashanah mindset, which is why these Torahs are coming down in the Chumash, in the Zohar. Is you'll see that things are there's a non-schism, there's a unity beyond what most people generally think about. The Jews weren't Jews till they crossed over into the land to take on the commandments. Getting the real nitty-gritty facts down. What is a ger? What is a non-ger? What is a Jew? What is not a Jew? Which this parsha goes into, tells you the psychology of man and what they're dealing with on an empathetic level. And everyone has their reasons. The brothers had their reasons for wanting to kill Yosef. There was a psychology there. The bottom line is, don't get into politics. There is a level of klippa in the Torah called politics. Don't go there. Love the ger, don't taunt the ger. The convert has this, the ger toshav has that, the ger tzedek has this. There's much more to it than you know, says the parsha. Where we are in time, where we are in history, are we in the land, are we out of the land? The bottom line is, it's called Knesset Yisrael. Israel was created at Sinai. And at this Brit, it's called Knesset Yisrael, the gathering of Israel. Klal Yisrael, let's say, are Jews proper. But you'll find Knesset Yisrael is the entity called Israel that has 4 parts. Cohen, Levite, Israelite, Ger. And they function together, some hop off, some hop on, over time. And this entity moves across time. It's interactive, it's dynamic. There are different degrees. At this point, I'm Ger this. At this point, I'm Ger that. I'm Jew here, religious. I'm coming off. I'm a Bal Tshuva. And it is one. Once you get into duality, the mindset, then it becomes, well, it's all about me. It's not about you. You might as well crown yourself Mashiach because you think you know. You become disconjointed from your soul. You become a flesh. Flesh avenges flesh. The message of the Ger is actually very simple. To understand Knesset Yisrael, Love the ger, meaning love everyone, and don't taunt. When you understand another's predicament, don't taunt. Oh, you're religious today, but yesterday you were eating treif. Leave it alone. He's a Baal Tshuva. He's going through issues. He's coming to God. Okay, you know he's going to rise and fall, have pitfalls. Some days will be better than others. You have to remind him. Or the ger, when are you going to convert? Or how close are you to being Jewish? Or how was it to not be? Leave it alone. Let the guy walk with God. Just love him, be with him, and don't taunt. And once you leave the Baal Tshuva ger relationship, it goes all over everywhere. People want to get into political sores. Just love and don't taunt in matters of Knesset Yisrael. People coming on, people coming off, people going around. That comes from the open eye. You saw it, therefore you can offer empathy. If you don't see it, you don't offer empathy. Very simple. Now, the fruits are given. Israel gives its declaration, and the Gerim are there. Rashi says, Gerim don't read, because Gerim cannot say Avosenu, our fathers. Why? Very simple. The Jews are coming from a continued lineage from Abraham, son after son. The ger of any moment in time, when he's what the Ramchal calls opening his own branch, his own root. Meaning you are not an extension of anybody else. You are an Av. You are the Abraham program, reinserted. And maybe you want to go back to sleep. You want to be plugged back in the matrix. So you become the Abraham program that goes to Sinai. Or you can be the Abraham program that goes to Sinai that comes to our Parsha, meaning he is not going to sleep, he keeps his eyes open, and he's there with the Jews. And his eyes are open. Maybe then he wants to convert. Okay, then you convert eyes open. You become really high up. So again, the details are up to you as a ger, where you want to go. It's easier to close your eyes, go back to sleep, reinsert, fine, convert. You want an even tougher route? Be a ger toshav all the way through. You want an even tougher route? Go through it all, convert, and whatever you want to, it's wherever one is meant to do, where his powers are, what his interests are, where God takes him. Again, understanding it is just to say, do it. To not understand it is say, oh, well, you're this, you're that. Israel comes from Abraham in this son after son tradition, through Sinai, through the duality, coming onto the land, being kicked out of the land, coming onto the land. Then he brings first fruit, whether it be in the past or whether it become in the future redemption. He comes and recites, he says, my forefathers. I was in Egypt. Okay, you have schus avos, and you have a lineage. Gerim don't. Gerim don't read, Jews do. But underneath that lineage, those lineage forefathers were Gerim. What the Jew really is saying here is not that he has schus avos, he has schus Gerim. And the ger is here, and he's hearing this, and that's the situation of coming on the land. Now we know that the redemption is not going to have the Armageddon kill all the nations. So even if you were chayav, you'll come to Zakai, and you're on the land. And the Jew is sitting here proclaiming this, the Gerim are there, and they're saying this Jew is here proclaiming that upon his redemption, it was because he had schus Gerim, merit of Gerim. Now look what that term means. Because the ger is at the end of the passage. Those of your house. And when it says your house, look at all the ways you can say it. You can say it like those that learn it wrong, or you can say it like those that learn it right. You will have happiness, you and upon you and your house, and you and the Levite and the ger. Reiteration, redundant means nothing. How about learning Torah, eyes open, ger in mind, where it means something? You will have happiness that will you and your I forget what it says, will have happiness, and it says in your house, in you and the Levite and the ger. So read it like this: in your house. And then insert the English word, since it doesn't exist in Hebrew, is. Meaning, tell me who my house is. I'm reading the Torah, and I'm obligated to Torah, whoever I am. Who's with me? Who's my house? What am I? Who are we with? You? Let's assume that means Israel, since I'm at the temple and I'm not a priest. So the priest is there. You, the Levite. Levite doubles as a priest. And the ger. So who is your house? Who is the Torah speaking to? Israelite, Cohen priest, Levite, and the ger exist in one house. That's how you read it and have content come from it. Now the Jew and the ger are different. One has schus avos, one doesn't. One is the son of a ger, one is the father himself as a ger. One reads, one doesn't. The ger who's not reading hears the Jew read. He says, the Jew's saying, I was a ger, I am here because I'm a ger. And you've been redeemed. Once you're redeemed, you can say, Hashem redeemed me because of my merit of the ger. Now here's where it's a double entendre. Was I redeemed because I am a ger, and therefore God promised to redeem me? But maybe my merit came from gerim. Maybe the ger with me, I'm redeemed because of him. The bottom line is, redemption comes to gerim of all kinds. And when it says schus gerim, the deeper meaning is this. Israel was created. They stood at Sinai, they moved to this covenant, they are created. And what they have is called schus gerim. They merit gerim. Meaning they came from gerim, they are a nation of particular gerim, and when a ger erupts in the world, where does he have a home to? Israel. Israel merits gerim. Do you hear it in the language? They have the merit of gerim. Meaning gerim don't go and become Christians. Gerim don't go and become Muslims. Gerim don't go and become South Africans. The prototype benchmark, when one realizes I'm a ger, the merit is to join with Israel. Synonymous with Torah. Israel has merit of gerim. Thus, when you're redeemed, the thought of Armageddon, there was never a possibility. So Chayev doesn't exist. When you think you were redeemed because of you and not the ger, that was wrong. Because here we are in redemption in this chapter, in Boker Tov, everybody, the ger is with you. It says it in the Torah. You, the Levite, and the ger. It doesn't say if there's a ger amongst you. It assumes there is. Because you are gerim and you have schus gerim. There are going to be gerim with you. Read the Parsha. Your entire existence. If you're a ger, you have Jews with you. If you're a Jew, you have gerim with you. That's called schus gerim, the merit of gerim. And that always exists, and that always merits redemption. So the ger here is the Jew saying, I was redeemed because I'm a ger. The ger says, I'm a ger. Hashem redeemed me. Maybe this whole redemption came because of me. The bottom line is the ger merits redemption. In the gerim and in the Jews, and there is no schism. Now that we understand that Hashem takes over and eliminates the us versus them mentality. In the end, all the nations and the light and the redemption, it comes from the merit of Gerim. God will redeem the Gerim through the nation of Israel. The Ger is a part of greater Israel called Knesset Yisrael, the gathering of Israel. Israel exists to gather Gerim, internally and externally. If we read the Parsha opening chapter differently, it sounds like this. Jew, land, temple, Cohen. Go and read about my past, which is a reiteration of the entire Torah. And if there happens to be some non-Jews around, then way to go. When you think about it, connect the dots. Why are you coming on the land? Why are you going to the temple and seeing the Kohen, which that whole buildup allows you to repeat the Torah? I mean, you only get a resuscitation of Torah once you do this mitzvah. So we want you to read the Torah. And when you do, it turns out you would confess to everybody that you're a ger. And there's a ger with you. So that means gerim are watching you do it. And you are mentioning you have the merit of gerim. And the ger is with you, which is another expression, you have the merit of gerim. And you've been redeemed. So that when the arithmetic turns to algorithm, you see there is no schism. The two will have one day, they will have cooperated. They will have worked together. They will have come to the land. There will be a temple and a Kohen. And they will exist without schism. Sinai, as we showed, had schism. Jethro left. He left because of the Shem program. He's looking for Mashiach somewhere else. It's not about Mashiach. Ain't Mashiach liYisrael. Just like Shem gave over to Abraham. He or Jethro could have given over to Moses. But he goes looking for Mashiach. I'm going to go bring Mashiach. Instead of letting Mashiach just be here now. So now there's a schism at Sinai, and death comes back. The duality comes back, the stasis comes back, the sleepy spell comes back. And the bris is it's missing its components of what should have been. Ger Toshav and Jew together going right into the land. But it comes with distance between the two, and now you have the Jews go back to sleep. Instead of the Ger Toshav program being inserted, removing the spell. Our parsha is called another bris, another covenant. And notice the Ger is right there again. This time it's a complete Beisecha, a complete house, all of Knesset Yisrael. The Gerim are here, the priests are here, the Levites are here, Jews are here. Going in the land. And the message is to the Gerim as well. There are going to be nations that hate you. You're connected to Israel. It's now the full house. God says this is what it is to have your eyes open. Don't forget, and this is your success. So the main bris is this week. This is where you get the story of what life is like with each other, either from near or from afar. This is what it's like when you're going to convert. This is the real story. You want to know what it's like? This is what it's like. When there's an Israel, when there's no Israel. You want converts around you, Mr. Jew? This is what it's like. Whether you're in Israel, not in Israel, far, close, whatever it is. This is what life is like, eyes open. When you're low, a Ger Tzedek goes high. That's reality. You want to do your job and give merit? Then things are good. You have blessing. You want redemption? Come to the land together. And see how it's all about merit of Gerim. Eyes open from the Ger world and perspective shows you what life is what the entire Torah's message was by the repeating it at the conclusion of the mitzvah of bringing the first fruits. This Brit, this Parsha, there is no schism. There's no duality. And we read this Parsha of coming into the land. That's what gives clarity. We're also coming into Rosh Hashanah. It's the same thing. God prepared them to come into the land. This is what you need eyes open coming in the land. And it works out in the Torah, you need eyes open coming into Rosh Hashanah. So you can see what's there for the whole year. And the year is the power of the Ger, as we said. The Gerim are the ones that go from Parsha to Parsha. You need eyes, every Parsha opened. So you can see your world around you, Jews and Gerim together. You can ascertain what is the situation. How much in schism or out of schism are we? Are we getting along? Where are we in history? Are we in the land? If we're in the land, how close are we to that Temple Mount? If we're on the Temple Mount, how far away is the Kohen? And all the books that are linked to this type of thought. The Zohar, the Book of Devarim, Rabbi Nachman for one, will judge how open is one's eyes. Are they near or are they far? And when they're far, we can make them near by putting the perspective of that Ger in this time of year. What would this book say about this? All of a sudden, eyes open. Eyes open. The Parsha says something amazing. It says, I am Hashem your God, blah, blah, blah. But you don't have me as Hashem your God. You have Shem Elohim, the transcendent God, the great God, just God. And that's a problem. This is the spell. There's a big, scary God over my head. But when God speaks, he says, I am Hashem Elokecha. Elokecha means godly. I am your godly God. And back in Ekev, we had with the words El Gadol, Hagibor, V'Noira. El Gadol means great God. Meaning of all the gods in Avodah Zarah, the name Elohim, the name this, the name that, even in holiness, you need to get to the quintessential understanding. Yud Kei Vav Kei is the great God. The essential God. Even against the name Elohim, we say Hashem Hu Elohim. Hashem Yud Kei Vav Kei is the essence of God. And if you don't know that, you're under the spell. Whereas if you do know that, your eyes are open. The Ger is here. God is the great God. You know him. And he is awesome. And his name is honored. Then you understand 30 mitzvahs to the Noahides represents 30 names of God from the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. They become endowed with godliness. Mitzvahs that bring out 30 versions of God's name, says Shari Ura. Parashas Ekev says, you want to circumcise your heart? I love the Ger. You should love the Ger. I don't take bribes. That's me, God, says God. That's the great God. When you're not trying to buy him off, have issues with Gerim, you're not under the spell. You understand the great God. Then the redemption of the Gerim, God is honored. God is awesome. If God is just the big God, God in my life, your eyes are closed and God is not awesome. You're not happy, you're not doing your job. If God is godly and you're in joy with God, God is awesome, God is honored, and your eyes are open, you see Gerim Jews together in your world. And I'll close with this. The smallest is last. Rabbi Nachman explains, as the truth is revealed, peace will grow in the world. You'll start to see Torah being lived in reality. Eyes will open. Peace and love will reign supreme. But mind you, the ger will be last. He will be last. He is the smallest, most useless part of the equation in people's eyes. And for that you can be sure, says the Zohar, the ger is the biggest. He is the hardest to understand. Thus, in this world of falsehood, he is the lowest and most non-essential. In the world to come, which is the world of the ger, he will be first and foremost. In the revelation, ger's last. When the ger is redeemed, that is the final redemption. That will be the final redemption. So the parsha is dealing with the eye open. Remember all this. The eyes are open. You see life. You see what it's about. You're going either into the land or into the new year. And the ger is at the end. You only got to the understanding of the parsha because the ger was at the end. But once you saw him, that was the end, and everything comes revealed. That's a full revelation. That's God is awesome. God is honored. It's the gateway to a life of truth. And we're told, remember this covenant. Remember this one even beyond Sinai. Here they exist without schism. And in the first chapter, it tells you who's in your house. Very clearly. You, the Israelite, the priest, the Levite, and the ger. Make the house on your heart, and you will live the blessings of the parsha. Thank you very much. That's all for this week. Have a great week, and good Shabbos.